Hello everyone, this is Sumerian, and this is my tutorial on checkpoints. Checkpoints are wonderful little creativity toys, and the main effect of them is that once a player crosses over them, they are where he will respawn if he is defeated, um, if you have them programmed that way. Now there's a lot of different programming you can do to checkpoints, and we're actually going to go through some of it. So I've set this middle checkpoint to be the active one. If I jump off this cliff, I'm going to reappear at that middle checkpoint. So let's go into the properties of the checkpoint though and go through them. Default 4 means that when the toy box first loads, who is going to immediately be at this checkpoint. You can set it so that all players will start at this checkpoint when the box loads. You can set it by team. You can say no one, which they default to. And you can set it so that individual players will be assigned to individual checkpoints. On contact set for is what happens when a player walks over it. Now it's defaulted to individual players, so if player 1 walks over the checkpoint in front of me, the only player who this checkpoint is now active for is player 1. If you set it to all, then every player in the toy box now has this checkpoint set as their active one, and individual teams means any player on the blue team crosses it, anyone on the blue team now has this checkpoint set as their active. Available for. You can actually make it so that only certain people or teams can activate and use this checkpoint. You could say only the purple team can set this and then be respawned at this point. You can say no one can, and you can assign it to individual players or just say everyone can use this checkpoint. And hidden, turning it on, the checkpoint will vanish unless you've got a magic wand up. I'll put the magic wand down. That checkpoint has now disappeared on us. Alright, now this checkpoint I believe I've already set, available only for player 3. So in that case, I as player 1 cross over it and nothing will happen. I am still defaulted to this middle one, and you can tell that by the fact that there's a number 1 floating up there. If I step on this one, the number 1 doesn't move over to it, so I know I'm still active on this middle checkpoint. So we're going to put up a button so that we can take a look at some of the logic connections available to checkpoints. The only logic out of a checkpoint is message checkpoint set. So when you first cross a checkpoint and it pops up your number over it, it'll send out a trigger. Now, what can we input to a logic gate? Well, we can tell a logic gate that it is right now a player doesn't have to walk over it. You can just force it to be the active checkpoint for individual players or for all players. You can turn it on if you've turned it off. You can turn it off, which will make it so no one can walk over it and activate it. No one will respawn at it. And you can bring player, which is my absolute favorite feature of the checkpoint. Is you basically teleport the player from anywhere in the toy box to this checkpoint, and you can do it manually so that you can force it to happen. And then clear checkpoint, where I could send a message to a checkpoint saying player 1 is no longer active on this checkpoint. Now, even though I have this checkpoint set so that it is only available for player 3, I can actually force the checkpoint to set for any player I want using triggers. So if I push that button, I could say, make this the active checkpoint for player 1. We'll push the button. Now 1 will not show up over this checkpoint because the checkpoint is technically not available to 1. But if you see here, the 1 disappeared from the middle one. And if I do my flying leap of faith off the cliff, I'm going to appear at the far left checkpoint. So with the gates, you can actually force things to happen even when you've configured the gate so it shouldn't happen. So next we are going to turn one off. And all turning it off does is it means that it will clear the active status of any player on or from that checkpoint. The effects will go away, and no one can activate this checkpoint. So no one, even though this was still my active checkpoint, if I fall off the cliff now, I don't have an active checkpoint, so I'm just going to appear at the edge of the cliff. So turning it off will clear everything from the checkpoint and set it so that you can't walk over it and reset the active status of that checkpoint. It's unusable at that point, except for my favorite command, which is the bring player command. Bring player command, I can use any checkpoint, active or not, and I can force my player to disappear from where they are and appear at that checkpoint from anywhere in the toy box. It's a great way to teleport a player wherever you want them to go in the game, and it works amazingly. You can even teleport players individually, or you can bring them all as a group to the one location. And clear checkpoint simply removes the active status for that player or for all players from a checkpoint. So this has been my tutorial on checkpoints. I hope it was useful to you, and I hope you enjoy using them in Disney Infinity 2.0.